And the handshakes off, and there they go. And this is the one we will definitely follow the closest, as these two will have their names etched in history pretty much for all time. And we do have liftoff, and we also have the PGN files. We started off with an English, and let's just get both screens up on the board, and we have a very sharp position. That a little bit of hesitation there by Hans in this position, and now castles, threat to the pawn with bishop to g2, and rook e8 played quickly, and now knight to c2, prompting this trade on c3, and the d pawn recaptures, opening up a line for the bishop.
Yeah, h7, h6, stopping bishop g5, and if you will, it's a Rossolimo Sicilian with colors reversed. So white acts like black would in the Rossolimo Sicilian, having an extra tempo. So it should be comfortable for white, but I really doubt if white has any serious advantage here. c5, very ambitious move.
Preventing the obvious move d6 without creating some weakness, but then he played b6, did Hans Niemann, and now the next c-pawn, the new c-pawn,
yeah, so c4 and then c4 and move 1, and then c4 once again and move 11.
Exactly. And so now it is a question of, can black say, well, I should be okay. My structure's, whoa, I was about to say
D5.
very solid. And instead he said, I'm just going to open up the game. Remember, white is the one with the two bishops, particularly the dark squared bishop. So this move must come as a little bit of a surprise to Magnus, as Hans feels that the best thing for him to do is just open up the game and trade off queens.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Magnus is going to do. Like, will he capture d5 himself, or there is castle inviting black to capture on d1. He does the first, goes for the first option, trade it, and only then castles kingside. Knight to d7. Well, it's not easy to foresee how exactly white is planning to develop his initiative.
I think the interesting thing for me is, what will the bishop on c1 do? Well, you would like to play the move b3 to develop it, but there is the problem of knight to c3.
Yep. Well, actually, both white bishops, we do speak of the advantage of two bishops. As of now, both white bishops are kind of restricted.
Right. Knight to e3 instantly responded to by bishop to e6, and Hans is playing mercurially quick. I mean, he is just taking this edge to Magnus on the clock already. He's up a full minute and just saying, I got this. Whatever move you make, I'm ready to play. Magnus has to be feeling a little bit of pressure, and him grabbing a pawn there and now playing the move a3.
a3, do we like a3 in terms of destruction? Not really, because it weakens b3 square.
He was trying to deal with the b4 square, it looked like, to make sure that wasn't challenging, but he did weaken the b3 square. And how maybe knight takes on e3 and park a bishop on b3 is possible, but Hans is studying his options now. All his pieces are developed. That is one thing that black has going for him in this position. The full development of the pieces and an edge on the clock. And he now grabs a pawn, it looks like, to play with a little bit. We see that a lot with chess players.
Yeah, that's an interesting habit that a lot of chess players have. Right. Knight e3, bishop b3 seems to be a perfect follow-up to his original plan. Then you can park the bishop on b3, go c5, c4, and make sure that the bishop from b3 controls d1. So the rook on a1 will be a problem to activate.
It's a heck of a way to exploit that last move, but instead he's gone passive and just played the move c6.
Knight takes and bishop takes.
That allows the bishop to come into the game, that is the dark squared bishop, bishop to e3. And now it looks like he played b5, did Hans? Bishop e3 on the board. We don't quite see the board with clarity to be able to know exactly what the move was.
Okay, so knight to g4. And this black setup, it's like the pawn on c6 is a backward pawn, but this bishop on d5 completely cements the entire setup, and it's very hard to foresee how white is supposed to break all this build up, all this formation in the center. I think black's perfectly fine.
Our colleague Peter Lako would say cemento position.
Cemento.
He likes it when there's nothing you can do to change the formation. And now we see this bishop take the knight as the knight was going to some dynamic squares, and he gets to play the move e3. There's a small potential problem with the bishop on d5 in that it doesn't have much to do, but then at the same time, again, that cemento concept is that it is perfectly well defended. The entire formation, there are no breaks for white in this position.
Yeah, the bishop on f1, well, which technically is supposed to be kind of a quote-unquote good bishop, doesn't have that many prospects.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what Magnus is supposed to do to begin to improve his position. And you can actually see some expansion for black on the king side. Some f5, g5 action could be played. Whoa, c5. That is anti-cemento.
Anti-cemento.
Why would you play such a move? It's because he wanted to play the move c4 to lock down the entire position.
Look, I mean, he's... whoa.
It's an ambitious
Black
play.
has a lot of space here. A lot of extra space. And then once again, as you've mentioned, g5, f5, like expanding even further.
Bishop to e6. And now the rooks have doubled. This gives the opportunity for rooks to go into the position, but a very quick rook to d5 by black. And it seems as though he's looking to play for the win here. And b4 played at just this exact moment. And I mean, it's clear Hans is playing for the win.
Yeah.
He hasn't put the brakes on at all. No equality in his mind. But now his bishop used to be very strong. He's going to have to, well, very much cemented. It looks like it will have to move off the square or maybe get defended by rook a5. I don't think it's something you really want to do. But he's played king back to c5. That early king sally. Now king up. That allows, interesting, rook a4.
Rook a4.
What is the purpose of
Wait
this
a second.
move?
After rook d4, can he really? Yeah, I was thinking like rook d4 could have been a move.
h4. G6 just to stop anything over there. Magnus down to 30 seconds, 28 actually now, and ticking. Hans keeping that edge on the clock. It has gotten closer, but he has maintained that edge. And Magnus now starting to feel the heat under 20 seconds and pausing here, not sure exactly what to do. The move bishop to g4 actually prompting the potential f5 move, but Hans has decided, I'm not going to play that. I'm just going to drop my piece back. And Magnus also dropping his piece back, his bishop back to e2.
Silent draw after bishop e2, because Khan could repeat the moves, and he decided not to. Obviously, he thinks he has like a lot of space advantage and also kind of a flow advantage, right? So he's the one making the moves faster. Magnus down to 15 seconds only.
And
well,
h5, that's a big move, conceding the fact that you have no more breaks on that side.
Yeah. Rook d1, rook a8.
But 10 seconds left for Magnus. There is a 2-second increment, but he is not sure what to do. And I'll tell you, Hans has no problem flagging him.
Absolutely.
And now a little repetition there by Hans. 5 seconds for Magnus versus 24. And a repetition and an agreed draw in that position. He did not have to do that. He could have been cheeky and tried to win the game. Let's jump to Nepo versus Murzin, if you will.
Yeah, the game is still in progress. Looks like a equal rook endgame to me.
Murzin is the one with only 7 seconds on the clock, and there goes Jan Nepomniachtchi trying to bother him enough to win the game. And now black has managed to play the move c5. He's got a 2-to-1 majority on the queen side and is about to take the a5 pawn.
a5's hanging, and rook a4, well, protects the pawn, but what an ugly move you have to make in order to... Yeah, well, rook d8, very aggressive. Black
take the pawn.
Takes the pawn,
later.
Rook f8, rook to f5.
Whoa, he is now up a clean pawn. Oh, but this endgame, very well understood, is drawn.
It is a draw, yeah. It is
yes,
a draw.
The king
cannot really help those pawns to promote, right?
No, this will be drawn. Let's get out of this one, and let's go to Caruana versus Duda. And right now, it is
Duda is completely winning.
Who's dominating, and the game is actually over.
The game's over.
As Fabi was just down too much, and the other game ended in a draw between Wesley and Alireza Firouzja. What about the women's games? Do we have any games to jump to?
Letingier and Asabayeva are still playing, and it is a drawish position, but Asabayeva is a pawn down. That's not not the hardest defense, but still the game somewhat continues. Yeah, so that's the position they have right now.
They're playing in a playing hall for the first time with the open section participants.
Yeah, we have two decisive results. Zhu Junior won against Vaishali with black, and Zhu Wenjun beat Valentina Gunina with white. Yip Lagno being a draw.
The two Chinese superstars winning their first game, and here we see just a few seconds left. Black maintaining this king position, and just a huge king position, but white's going to try to bring the king all the way over, but I don't see what it does.
Maybe get the bishop to e5 eventually, but it can be captured. Yeah, I thought like white, like makes 10 moves in a row, gets the bishop on e5, but still black would be able to capture it. Bishop g5 and to d8 and get the king on g5. Is that something? No, she didn't go for it.
Okay, coming back around, and this one could last a while. And now she's played the bishop down, and this is the kind of position where you just keep trying, scare your opponent for 1 second, and then somehow magically win the game. And the bishop is on the e5 square, but isn't bishop? Oh, she's brought her king back, and she kind of fumbled the king there.
Yeah, but then look, that white is trying to get the king to say d5 or something, and maybe.
And now this bishop is frozen on this diagonal. The bishop,
right.
The dark square bishop cannot leave the diagonal. But here comes the king.
And why are the 8th ranked? You go king c7, d8,
Yes.
e8. Well, it still can be problematic.
And now here's the position that we were curious about. Is there a way to break through this defense?
Well, that better be, because I just checked, and they're not too far away from 50 moves without a single capture, without a single pawn move.
White is offered a trade. That's not going to happen for sure. And black has been defending extremely well and continues to do so, chasing the bishop and then just dropping back.
Yeah, so perhaps it is just a fortress, and it's not a lot he can do.
It looks that way. It just doesn't seem as though you'll ever be able to break through. And now she's switched. What an interesting moment to make this decision.
Yeah. Bishop to e5. Yeah, bishop d6 doesn't really give you anything. Check here and just go back.
Brilliant play by a two-time former champion. And you just can't really push the pawn anywhere, so that doesn't do anything. And I think we're probably already at the 50.
Yeah, we've just reached the move 50 without a single pawn move, single capture. But yeah, I'm not sure, in fact, how do you claim this one in Blitz? Like, you should at some point.
Betty, she's so fantastic at Blitz. She sees the position is drawn, and if she finds a position where she's busted, she will, well, actually, no, because if white does make a pawn move,
yeah,
it all starts over again.
Absolutely. That's the thing. So, well, in some, let's say, rook knight versus rook, it's final, right? So you wait for the situation where you're kind of desperate, and only then you can claim. Here, you might lose this chance.
However, 75 moves.
Yeah, after 75 moves without a change in the position, the arbiters will stop it.
So where are we now?
Like 60?
Only?
Yeah, like 15 more moves to play. Okay, the PGN is somewhat lagging. Yeah, okay, they've agreed to draw eventually, and the first game of the quarterfinals is complete.
And as you said, there were... Oh, I'm shocked. We did not see the clock.
Oof.
While we were just seeing them repeat back and forth.
Asabayeva lost on time.
Asabayeva lost on time. That is our fault, folks. Early morning, early afternoon, first game.
And she didn't
We were not alert. She did not have to lose that game. She actually...
She could have claimed 50 moves.
She could have claimed the 50 moves. That is a tragic, tragic finish to that first game that she could have claimed. You're moving. You don't want to count as you move.
Yeah, absolutely.
One at a time. But, yeah, it seemed also that she was moving so quickly, she never seemed possible to lose on time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if anything, she was more confident in making this move in 2 seconds. But then,
Absolutely. I'm shocked. I just saw her moving so fast, and we didn't even bother to look up. So let's try to pay attention to that when the clock is ticking down. Well, it's time for game 2 of the matches, and 3 of the women's matches have ended decisively. As you mentioned, only a draw between Carissa Yip and Katarina Lagno in the first game. All the others ended decisively, as Zhu Zhenner is at 1-0 against Vaishali, and here we see all the results. 3 decisive in the ladies section, and in the open, only Duda was able to win against Fabiano Caruana.
yeah, so that's kind of the opposite situation, right? Well, Duda will Fabi will have a very hard task coming back against Duda. Yes, I know it's Blitz, and he has 2 whites out of 3 remainings, but Duda, when he finds his play, he is a very, very dangerous player, very principled player. So, well, hard task for Fabi. Shall we watch Fabi's game now? In this game 2 of the quarterfinals?
You really want to go away from Magnus versus
No,
Hans?
I do not want to.
The whole world will just strangle us if we left that game. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
we
fair
need to
point.
stay on that match. But we'll see. I mean, right now it's half and half. This match, if Hans wins a game and we're somewhere else, then we'll be blaming you, because I'm not suggesting we leave this one at all. This is just must-see television for sure. We're sorry, folks, fans of the other players, but this is a matchup in the making. The last day of 2024, Carlsen plays Hans Niemann in a world championship battle.
No, you're not walking away
Sorry,
from this one.
That table
Absolutely
is the star table. We will try to pay attention to the others, if you will. And, of course, 2 wins in a row in the next 2 games, and the player simply wins the match. So this is a critical game, to be sure. Once again, welcome into our studio. I'm Maurice Ashley. He's Grandmaster Yevgeny Miroshnichenko. And Miro, it's so tense, these blitz matches. And it's 4 games you have to play. You don't want to have to lose the first game, but at least you have 3 more games to try to make a comeback.
Yeah, well, that's a very strange length to this matches, because we are very much used to like just having 2 games in various knockouts, where Blitz used as the tiebreak, right? And then you have 2, and you know what you're doing. Okay, you lost game 1, you're in a must-win situation game 2. Or we used to have, like, specifically online, we have a lot of like longer matches. This 4 is a really strange format. Like, you really want to win, but also like losing 1 might cost you the match. I mean, yeah, it's very tense for the players. That's
very tense indeed, and they start pretty quickly, as we see there Chinese superstar looking to add another point after the first victory, and everyone's settling in, trying to get the right mindset. The other thing is you don't really get a chance to prepare. In preparation, you're going to look up what do they play theory. Yeah, you know what? Your preparation is probably just some meditation. Relax yourself, get in the groove so you can flow and enjoy the process. And there, Magnus did not get anything out of his last game with white.
Right.
Had to be a bit surprised because Hans played extremely confident chess, and it's just showing that he is one of the world's best players. I mean, that's not like this kid is a surprise anymore. A lot of people might have thought that before, and especially with all the controversy around him back when this all broke out. But now Hans Niemann is number 18th ranked player in the world. He's a top 20 player with a rating, actually a classical rating of 2734. Still 100, almost 100 points behind Magnus, but definitely a dangerous person to play. And here he has the white pieces. They have begun the game. And Magnus, look at the body language. What do you make of that body language?
I do not think he's very comfortable. And I find it ironic that they actually played, well, more or less the same position with Carlos Ruiz, or rather started. So it was started as the Rosolimo Sicilian. So they could reach potentially a very similar position. Yeah.
And Hans playing a very interesting idea early on. I just saw the move knight h2, get played. Don't try this at home. We say develop your pieces and don't move the same piece twice. And he instantly says, you castled, I'm going to go for something with this idea, knight h2, knight g4. Very original idea in the opening.
Yeah, but I'm somewhat surprised, to be honest, because before that, like he went bishop b5 and then bishop c4. And this is like the known position with a tempo down. Because, yeah, anyway, it's very interesting to see how this one unfolds. Magnus just goes knight to d4. So now you can, well, a4 is, well, obviously in white's agenda. You want to trade these knights and then, well, take control of the d5 square. a7, a6 played by Magnus, still keeping this b7, b5 move in mind. Well, we've spoken about ex-world champions in the women's section. In the open section, we only have one ex-world champion in Blitz, but he's done it 6 times. His name's Magnus Carlsen. And one of the, or maybe a couple of the championships that I recall, he would have a slow start and then speed up. Guess what? If he has a slow start in this one, he's out. So that's a rough one.
You definitely don't want to do that in this competition now. And Magnus feeling fairly confident in this position.
b5 was a lousy move, pardon me, because he cannot recapture with the pawn.
Absolutely right, because of rook takes on
rook takes, queen takes, and you take on
knight
f6
takes
with
on
a check.
f6, wrecking his own structure. And Magnus looking, saying, what the heck did I just do from a positional standpoint? That is absolutely disastrous.
That's the worst possible scenario. You went to b5, and then after the capture, you have to think.
He looks flustered by that last move. He's just in shock that he had to do this. He's compromised his structure tremendously. And now the move bishop to d2 and bishop g5, looking to trade off the bishop that's not doing too much. But Hans instantly played bishop to a5, parking a piece on that square. And it is clear that the a6 pawn is the biggest problem in this position.
Queen b8, and yeah, you can just safely castle. You can control d4 with c2, c3. Bishop on a5, in fact, is quite annoying, controlling d8 while having some c7 ideas. King h8 and f5 is what Magnus is preparing, I'm guessing.
I don't think f5 is necessarily something Hans even minds with the light square problem. He has a grip right now in the position. Sooner or later, I suspect the move c3 will also happen to make sure that knight on b5 is curtailed.
Such an awkward knight on b5, and Magnus pretty much done it to himself, right? So you go c3 and this b5 knight. It's actually hard to find the way. Yeah, like what do? You go to a7, c6, and then what?
No, but a7, you trap your own rook.
a7, you trap your own rook, yeah.
So problems here as Hans tries to figure out exactly, though, how to, because he has made a move.
Queen h5,
threatening the bishop.
Just throw it into a zone, and it could be that it's not Magnus who is playing f5, but rather Hans at some point going f4, especially with the queen on h5. I kind of like the sound of it.
Bishop d8 now by Magnus, and let's take a look at the clock times as we try to pay attention carefully. He's now traded off the piece, and Hans is just a little bit behind. As you mentioned,
he did go f4.
He did go f4, and that's
a dangerous initiative, Maurice.
Absolutely.
I mean, this king on h8 is not a happy king at the moment. So
if anything,
what do you even do? Like the knights on d5 is annoying. If you take on d5, bishop d5, that it's a monster bishop against your silly horsey on b5. I don't even know what to do.
No, it's clearly better for white. Let's just
Absolutely.
No final point on this one. This is a superior position for white. The main thing is white has play on both sides. White's rook on a1 is holding down the rook sitting on the a8 square. White is also attacking. White has absolute flexibility, and Magnus is looking over in this position. If he himself had the white pieces, he knows he'd be rolling up this initiative. Now he's got to play some artful defense in order to slow down the train that is coming at him at the moment. And he's down on the clock as well, a long time to play that move f6.
Hang on a second. Is anything of like f takes e5? How do you reply to f takes e5? Because I'm guessing taking here would lead to rook takes, queen takes, some knight b6. It could be that white is already winning material. Fe5, we are about to see what's going to happen.
Which means he would have to take the other way, which is, I clean disaster, and he has done so. He has taken.
Yeah, he's taken with the d pawn, but now c5 is hanging this one. And guess what? Knight takes f6 tactic is available for white.
That is a very interesting looking tactic because your queen is overworked. Your queen has to defend the rook on the back rank. So knight takes f6 threatens mate. And then there's going to be a
knight takes, rook takes.
And you have to keep capturing in order to defend your bishop.
And
knight
then
takes
if
is a
queen
winning
takes,
tactic.
then you take on b5.
He did not play it. He missed it or misassessed it. But knight takes was, in that moment, a winning tactic. And Hans, with very little time on his clock, has to figure things out. And he's played the move b3, playing positionally now. He's lost some of that steam in the position, and Magnus realizes it.
Very comfortable for white still, of course, like a bit of an advantage. But yeah, Magnus somehow gets a chance to shape up and possibly save this game.
Not looking in great form. That first game, a very confident looking Hans, and now Magnus again finds himself in a bad position, and that capture is a meaningful one. How do you take back? That slightly weakens your structure there.
Yeah, I would probably capture with the beep. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The queen d2, all of a sudden Magnus gets the chance to activate his pieces.
And knight a4 played, hitting the pawn on c5, that one weakness. And probably a queen d1 will land on the board quite shortly to just deal with the threat to the position. And he's decided,
queen takes c2.
Forget it, I'm just going to take.
And just go bishop f7.
C2, and there's queen d1.
Queen d1.
Definitely would like to, I'm not sure the trade is that bad for white, for black actually, because this b3 pawn will be weak for some time.
Yeah, so you hit the knight, and then depending on where the knight's going, you either have a4, well, he decided rook f to b8 immediately.
And Hans, with only 11 seconds, has defended his pawn. This looks like a mutual trade will happen. The question will be, where does this knight belong? I really want to push it to the right and put it right in the middle.
Yeah, just go there, right.
And now
knight b7 and knight d6.
Two quick moves, and it looks
Magnus has blundered.
Magnus has blundered the a5 pawn. Magnus in trouble with only 11 seconds left on his clock. He's going to have to fight for his survival. And now knight takes, and it is all
Two connected
Hans
passes
right now.
Two connected passes for Hans. Absolutely winning position. Just has to be mindful of the second rank, because that's maybe the only way a black can get any sort of counterplay.
And he missed rook takes
c5. What a blunder.
He missed this move, and now...
now, wait a second. Check and rook g8. And I was talking about the second rank, but how about seventh rank?
Magnus actually is going to lose pawns on the king side himself. And the G rook is guarding it, and there goes the B pawn.
Hans is crossing.
And he just mated
checkmate.
He just mated Magnus as his king in the middle of the board. What a fantastic finish by Hans Niemann, and he is leading the match right now. Incredible.
Wow.
Let's switch over to another game if you can find.
Yes, it's a draw for Perugia and Wesley. So Murzin lost to Nepo, and Caruana Duda are still in progress. It's an equal position. Now I wanted to say like Duda's better. I don't think Duda's better, even though like he has more space. But his own king is. Well,
let's jump to this game.
Yeah, let's jump to this one. That was Vaishali, right?
Yes.
Giuliano is Vaishali. Vaishali. Wow. Wow.
And now suddenly it is Vaishali who's trying to make the comeback, and she has done so. So that match is tied up. Fantastic comeback by that young Indian star, the sister of Pragnananda. And now let's take a look at this one as
Duda with Fabi. Yeah.
Yes, Fabi is trying his level best to win this game. But how do you stop this perpet?
Queen to c5 and then get the queen on g1. But then after queen d2, what do you do? You're
losing that pawn. If you defend it, it's just a draw. And so Duda maintains his edge in that match.
Lietingia Sabaiwa is still in progress from what I can see.
Let's see it.
And this time it's Asabaiwa who's the pawn up, but also the bishops were of opposite colors. They've just agreed a draw after bishop h1, it seems.
So she does maintain the lead in that match, does Lietingia.
Yeah, so let's just update on the results. June won a second game, so she is 2-0 up against Gunina. That potentially is the first match to finish is if she doesn't lose game 3. Carissa Yip loses to Lagno. So that makes it what, one and a half half in Lagnos's favor. Lietingier, as you said, remains in the lead, and then Vaishali equalized against Jujiner. Two draws for Ferrugia and Wesley So. Duda leads Caruana by +1 for Nepo after him winning game 2. And guess what? Hans Niemann is leading against Magnus Carlsen. Absolutely scandalous result.
That's a good word. It is a shocker for everyone concerned, as Hans Niemann checkmated Magnus in one move. And you don't see that very often in high-level play, and certainly not with Magnus. And now Magnus's back is against the wall. If he loses this game, he is out of the championship that he has dominated, 6 titles. And that first game, though, you saw it in the very first game, how frazzled he looked at the speed Hans was playing at and the confidence Hans had. And now this second game, he got outplayed.
Absolutely.
And then he lost this, he blundered this pawn in what looked like he was finally back in the game. And then it turns out that he was losing, but then to hang mate in 1 under the pressure, and you see him there, the world's best player.
So clearly reflecting on something. I don't think he, definitely doesn't look happy, but he tries to find, I don't know, the mojo to continue. It is, of course, like the super important game. One thing, losing here, he's out, but also like not winning with white and leaving it all to the last game with the black pieces will also be not ideal scenario. Magnus wants it, wants the equalizer right here, right now in the very next game.
No question about it. Let me see Magnus again. I'm just trying to figure out. I thought I saw something. And look at the fans. I mean, there are throngs of fans there. And, wow, that body language says it all. I don't know how infuriated he is at the moment, or is he embarrassed, or what is the body, man, what is going on in the mind right now of this genius?
And look, Maurice, that's the first time, I think, when he is seated before his opponent, before the round. We used to see him like coming at the very last moment or even like few seconds late.
Actually, is something strange going on, because did they start on other boards already? No, right?
No.
None of the games started yet. Okay.
Yes, it's 3 minutes after the last game of the round has finished. So there's still perhaps like some seconds for Hans to arrive.
All right.
Just don't see
Hans certainly is not celebrating his victory. We see him there coming up. This controversial American superstar. Well, I can call him that because he's a top 20 player, not just saying that with hyperbole. And he has so many detractors from his history, that what he's admitted, let's just be clear, he admitted cheating online, and that alone has really put him under the garbage truck for many. Just disrespect. Nobody wants to forgive him as a youngster, and he will ever have that label. But he has also resurrected his play and shown that he is a force to deal with, and pretty much of a rebel. He's always going to be the bad boy of chess, no matter what he does, probably. All he can do is, as he says, let the chess speak for itself.
Right, and we needed a rebel, if you will, like, because, well, the problem, in my understanding, with all those, like, the very top players, that usually they're too nice of a guys. I really like having Hans, and also, well, look, I mean, he's playing absolutely fantastic chess so far.
I see you're here for the drama.
Absolutely.
Well, there are many who would disagree with that, but I have to say, drama he does bring with him wherever he goes, and he's just going to be the bad boy of chess, and he's playing against someone who some people think kind of has that bad boy edge as well, but I don't think he has anything on Hans in that department, as Magnus is somebody that's also beloved by many. Hans here, though, with a win, will literally cinch the match, so Magnus has to be careful. I don't think Hans wants to be too careful, however, because you start playing for a draw
against Magnus. Yeah, no, it's not a good plan, right? So you're trying to be a bit too defensive and sometimes like exchanging, making concessions, and at the end, doesn't end well against Magnus Carlsen.
No, you want to catch a flow and act as though you've been there before. And now he's traded off his bishop, now giving Magnus the advantage of the two bishops, a very strong bishop. And now Magnus in complete flow as he has captured once on d5 and then played the move
c4. And, yeah, well, this, at least the opening stage clearly went Magnus's way, we can say.
That bishop on f4 is really annoying. It's taking a look at that bishop. And now c5, looking to solve his problems in absolutely one fell swoop. But Magnus said, nope, actually, my pieces are all better developed than yours. Your rooks are not in the center as yet. So if it's a moment, it feels like it should be now that Magnus finds the move.
Yeah, so, well, d5 is what he ended up playing. After knight c5, the queen's going to go to a3, I'm guessing.
Was that the right way to approach this position? I'm a little surprised by this liquidation of taking on c5. Normally, you don't want to trade things that quickly, and the knight doesn't seem as though it's poorly placed on c5.
Yeah, the knight on c5 is great. Well, Magnus went queen to b2. There's a little pin over there, right? You cannot take on c4. Cannot take on c4 because bishop d6. So there is still some tension in the position. But yeah, but Magnus, since he started exchanging, like now he also captures c d5, so he was the one to give up on holding tension in the center, and usually that means that black, well, closer to equality that he used to be. So f6, bishop d4, right?
f6 played. Magnus has paused on this move, whether or not to play the move bishop to d4. It looks like the most obvious response. And he has now played it, but Hans just moved his rook over. And black has completed his development to the detriment of those light squares on the king side. You see that g6, h7-ish possibilities. Can Magnus take advantage of it? And he's going to try to massage that at some point. Knight to a4. And the queen, did the queen go?
Queen dropped in the corner because has to control c3. Otherwise, the knight's appearance on c3 would be very unpleasant.
And the knight dropped back to c5 immediately, and now queen to b1. We're talking about those squares, and now a little annoying repetition.
Knight a4.
Daring the queen to land on that g6 square, where it will be chased back by the move bishop to f7.
Yeah. So on queen g6, that'd be bishop f7 move. But Magnus currently doesn't really know what to do against knight to c3. Queen a1 back, knight c5 back, and I think he went bishop c4.
Now bishop f7, guarding those light squares just a bit. And the question, a4 played.
Okay.
Looking to break up those pawns on that side, but it just feels as though black has so many good squares. I think, did he play knight b4?
Yeah, he's done it. Knight b4, bishop takes c5. The rooks were traded. And then...
A very interesting moment here. Why is white better? And pawn takes.
Hans decided to take with the pawn and queen to c3.
Pretty surprised by that move, but that's actually an aggressive posture, taking the pawn.
Absolutely.
So let me create a passed pawn. I'm the one with threats here. Hard to understand, as that blockade on c4 looks pretty sturdy, but he does have a rook behind the passed pawn. The only passed pawn in the position is his. And now the move, what?
Knight a2.
What?
Wow. Knight a2 is not a good move, let me tell you, because queen d3 apparently almost wins for white.
Almost wins?
Yeah. And Magnus finds it. I still do not pick the idea of knight b4, queen f5.
That just accelerated white's entry into the light squares.
Hitting this one, and rook d7 is a threat. And he might be losing his c5 pawn. Would he go rook d8, right? Just trade the rooks. Yeah, in case of rook d8, you just trade rooks, trade bishops, capture c5.
But what about rook to c7?
Yeah, it is the best move, but then white trades on f7, and you'll have to take with the king.
Yes.
Which is quite unpleasant.
What's so bad about that? Now he's hesitating. Now he's hesitating. He realizes his error. That really bold or maybe rash move, knight to a2, has caused him a world of hurt. And he's played
Rook d8,
to d8.
so he's given up the c5 pawn.
He has indeed, and he's going to suffer
Trade.
a very unfortunate-looking ending when Magnus takes that pawn on that c5 square, and it's gone from the board. What a mistake on his part, playing this knight a2 move. Looks like Magnus is back in business, a tremendous edge on the clock, 1:16 to only 10 seconds left, and now the move a5, trying to keep the knight strong.
Knight to d4, and what a tremendously strong knight on d4 that one is. Queen takes, white king is safe, and then
now
the queen gets to f7.
Rut row. We are now talking, whoa, offering a knight ending. That should be...
Queen to g8.
That looks bad in my opinion, but Magnus decides I don't need the ending, actually.
My queen
have 5 seconds on the clock.
My queen is more
4, 3,
active.
2, 1, and he finally played his knight back, attacking the queen. And now the queen goes after, and that's going to be it. The queen cannot maintain the defense of everything after this move. Queen d7 was impossible because of knight f8 check.
Yeah,
and now he's just lost a piece, and that is that. Magnus ties the match.
What a comeback.
Indeed, knight a2, a big mistake by Hans. That was the deciding one. What other games you got for me?
Well, everything else seems to be in progress, whichever one you like.
Let's look at this one.
Nepo with, Nepo with Murzin. Nepo, to remind you, is on +1, and he is the one in the driver's seat in this position. Not only he's a pawn up, but also c7 pawn is very weak, so he might close the match after this game.
Jan Nepomniachtchi, she's maybe the only player in the entire tournament that has not lost a single game.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic achievement if you think of like playing so many games over 3 days of rapid blitz time controls and stay undefeated. That's absolutely great achievement.
Now with only 4 seconds left, the youngster may be seeing his last moment here in the championship. He's already had a fantastic result, but he's trying now to fight on, and now the move. What was that rook move for? Just losing another pawn,
yeah, he
and
just
that is
dropped another pawn, and this is it. And Jan Nepomniachtchi is the first semi-finalist of World Blitz Championship, while the newly crowned World Rapid Champion gets eliminated.
Yes, dominant play. And here's Fabiano Caruana looking to not be eliminated by Duda. He has only 3 seconds left on the clock, and he has to somehow not lose this game at least. And that's it.
That's it. Fabi's out.
Fabi is out. Fabi knocked out by Duda, and here's Zhu Wenjun trying to knock out Gunina.
And Gunina absolutely needs to win this one, and it seems impossible from what I see on a digital board, and on the real board there's even less pawns left. So it's 2 pawns each, knight versus bishop. Each side has a rook. It has to be like close to 0 chance of winning for black.
But White just sat there for about 15 seconds and not made a move.
She was looking for rook e5, Marie. She was looking to trade the rooks after rook e5 and decided against it.
And then she just pinned herself.
Yeah.
Is she trying to?
Knight to c4.
Knight to c4. And then check. Is it met by rook to
e1?
Forcing.
So you have to exchange something, either rooks or the knight for the bishop. And after that, there is absolutely no chance you win. So moreover, it's like kind of, the wrong corner for these kings after f3.
More trades.
h4 takes. There's nothing. King f1, king to g2.
You might start looking like you might lose this position. Be careful, because here comes the knight to go pick off the g3
Knight
pawn.
goes to f1.
And so as she has actually resigned, or maybe she offered her a draw. Whatever the case may be, it's still the same result.
It's still the same result. So Zhu Wenjun is in the semis. Carissa Yip stroke back against Katerina Lark.
Well, look at this one. 2 draws we saw in the first game, and now Wesley So winning.
Wesley So has won his game against Alireza Firouzja. So, well, Firouzja is in a must-win situation in the last game.
Indeed. And what did you have with Carissa?
Carissa won her game, so it's a tie.
Wow.
It's a tie
Comeback.
in Carissa's tie in Carissa's match. Zhuzhiner Vaishali was a draw, and Lietingia Sabaeva was also a draw. So all the matches keep going. Gunina's out, Fabi's out, and Murzin's out. All right, and we are approaching game 4. And if game 4 was not to determine a winner in the match, guess what? There won't be an Armageddon. There will be game 5 and game 6 and game 7, 8, and so on until somebody wins the game.
Hans Niemann there was leading momentarily against Magnus and then lost that game. Had a great chance in that game to get a draw, but it did not work out for him. And now balanced situation. Here comes the world's #1 player coming back to the table. We have just an incredible situation as some players are on the edge. Other matches are just tied. It is that real difficult situation you find yourself in. Nepo is through. So is Duda. He has gone through. But 2 other matches, well, Wesley's leading his
Wesley's
match.
leading.
So that he's trying to close it out, and Magnus and Hans are currently tied. Vaishali's down a game, isn't she?
Vaishali equalized in game 2.
Oh, that's right, she equalized. My apologies. So they have a big game to decide things. Carissa Yip equalized this game. Asubayeva
is trailing. Remember this first game when she was defending and flagged? Yeah.
And then I believe the last game.
The last match is finished, and Ju Wenjun is through. It's 2.5 in her favor against Gunina.
Here it is. Tense 4th game. Maybe not final, however.
For the quarterfinals, absolutely. All right, so we already know that Nepo's going to be in the semis, potentially. Well, as of now, looks like Wesley's leading. And Duda is waiting for either Magnus Carlsen or Hans Niemann to join him in the semifinals.
Duda playing very well, defeating Fabiana Caruana, who was dominating the blitz for so much of yesterday's rounds, but fell short near the end. And yes, it's, you want to win in 3 games, but at least when you play, if you get to 4, it means you're still in it, right?
Absolutely.
No matter what, it means you're still in it. If you're trailing, at least you're still in it.
Yeah, you're still, well, you at least, like it's a must-win situation, so we go all in, all out.
Exactly. So that is what we face now. And let's see the women's bracket to see who is up against it in the last game as the players prepare to play this 4th and crucial game.
So, yeah. Equal score Vaishali against Zhuzhin.
Well, the Ju Wenjun Valentina
2.5
graphic is actually 2.5 half.
And their match
or maybe
is over.
It's 3-0, but I think it's 2.5 half, we think. Maybe we haven't confirmed that, but the match is indeed over. And here, actually, this second match is not updated either because Carissa Yip is tied.
Yeah, Carissa Yip has won her game, and it's a tie, 1.5 each. And then, what else?
And Asubayeva has to
win. Asubayeva is trailing by 1 point. All right, so we are waiting for game 4. So these are the ones updated now. Ju Wenjun is in the semis, waiting for either her compatriot Zhuzhiner or Vaishali to join there.
All right, well, it's an exciting moment to be sure for a lot of these players. This is where the heart palpitations really come, and you wonder who is going to survive. But we're wondering it for a number of matches, but the real one has got to be Hans again versus Magnus. We could bounce around after that, but this is must-see TV, and they have begun. So let us get to that board. And there we go, Magnus with the black pieces. And they're going back into that line, it looks like.
No, he went E5, 1E5, and he switched
E5.
to Gioco Piano, where it will be hard to win with black, but also it's much more solid compared to what he has done in the second game.
So a draw in this game takes us to tie breaks.
To the 5th game, right? Which Magnus, if you think of it, he would not mind because in the 5th game he will have the white pieces, and yeah, the tie break is not really a tie break, but they just continue playing until somebody wins. He would have a good chance with white.
We'll see. He didn't get much with white in the first game, and even the second game, he did have a great position, but Hans at some point had equalized. So we will see. And right now, just careful, cagey play. You don't want to get behind on the clock early. You've got to have flow. And right now, Hans Niemann not quite there yet, but he's quickly traded in that position.
Yeah, so bishop e6, and Magnus plays it the most classical way. So because there are systems where you do not spend time on rook e8, you go bishop e6, take with the pawn, and it becomes more double-edged. So, well, it looks like Magnus is going for something like very solid, very classical, if you will.
The d4 now played, and this has given Magnus some pause at how to respond to this expansion. The threat, of course, is d5, winning a straight piece, and Magnus doesn't seem too comfortable after that move.
Rook to e8 seems to be, I think, yeah, he made some long move backwards, and after rook to e8, white has to be somewhat better. Bishop e3,
and takes,
pawn takes, and he captured with the bishop.
Had to not to lose the e4 pawn, but also trying to blunt the effect of the bishop on a7, although that does allow knight takes on d4.
Yeah, well, knight takes, pawn takes, but then, yeah, you have, you know, f5 square, some queen d3, and the bishop on a7, black still has to prove that this bishop is worth something. I'm thinking Hans better.
That's incredible, actually, to how played Magnus in just a few moves there. And Magnus sitting up in his chair as the strategic decisions he has to make. The capture on d4 or allowing bishop takes a7. Usually you want this bishop on a7 to be a trump in the position, but bishop e3, the bishop that was just sitting on c1, has come into the game and is now daring a capture. And Magnus there, you see, when he grabs that pawn, it means he's thinking for a little bit more before he finally makes his decision to take with the knight. And
so knight takes, pawn takes.
A great center formation for white, but can he do more? Or is it just all dressed up with nowhere to go? He said queen b3.
Queen b3.
Hitting the pawn and preparing
b7.
Rook to d8. Rook to d1, I mean.
Yep, everything centralized. Rook b8 from Magnus and rook a to d1.
And in just a few moves, Magnus is now substantially down on the clock with an uncomfortable position where he has lost all flow of the game, and he's trying to figure out how to deal with the spatial advantage that white has established in the middle of the board. This is the kind of position you can almost sit on your opponent and not really do anything. You don't have to prove anything with white necessarily.
Yeah, you can continue maneuvering, but there is also potential to just go e5, you know, while queen c2. Hans wants to keep the tension, which could be a right thing to do considering how hard for Magnus it seems to make each next move.
Exactly. In blitz, you want to put it on your opponent, and Magnus is now down under
1 minute
on the clock. Substantial,
wow,
like just massive time advantage. In fact, 224 against only 44 seconds, and a slight weakening of the king side with that last move. You realize the pawn on h6 is hanging.
C1.
Queen c1.
Keep this annoying moves coming.
Tapping him on the shoulder. Hey, buddy, your pawn on h6 is hanging. Magnus took a while to play that move and is down to 39 seconds only. Whoa, queen f4.
Queen f4 into the zone, and there could be some potential ideas of knight h4, knight f5.
Magnus in serious trouble on the clock and a bit of trouble on the board as well. Even if this position were equal, white is the one who is finding it much easier to play queen e7, and now knight h4, as you mentioned.
Knight
now
to
a
h4.
big threat of knight to f5. Can knight f5 still be played?
King
no.
h7, now that there will be queen f8.
Queen f8 would save him, so he just brought his knight back.
Jumps back. Rook to e8.
And now e5 played, allowing knight to d5.
Wow, it's a not ideal timing for e5.
Didn't feel that way.
It was a move. It was a move a few moves back, but now it seems that it gives black exactly what he wanted. So like a triple on the e5, and then bishop b8 surprisingly will target the e5 pawn. So we think of this bishop like kind of being stuck on a7, but actually bishop b8 might be a very annoying move to face.
Queen g4, rook takes played, allowing the isolation of his d pawn, but Magnus down to only 16 seconds against 151.
And I gotta say,
he's down to 12 seconds.
Position is better for black, believe it or not, but now it's time which is the factor. that's much more important what you have on the clock, because guess what? You're out of time, you lose the game.
The tension is thick right now as Magnus Carlsen in some trouble on the clock, but okay on the board, it seems, with that isolated pawn and the beautiful knight on d5. But will time run out on this reigning champion? And now not trading
Queen
queens
h4.
yet. Queen h4. There was a threat of knight g5.
Yeah. So Magnus will speculate on this queen trade. He actually can kind of force the repetition or force Hans to trade the knights.
And there's Magnus now just quickly moving to gain a little time on the clock. And now he's on the assault with this last move.
And knowing Magnus, I mean, he gets the flow in these endgames, you know. Bishop a7.
Okay, but king f1 should be chasing
King f1 chasing
out.
the rook out.
And now the knight can hop to greener pastures, you would think. But first he plays the move a3.
Knight to c7 to b5 or e6.
No, knight to c4. And now the isolated pawn becomes the storyline in this position. Knight to e3.
Being prepared to go d5, I'm getting now, knight c2, he decides to go for a passive defense of this one, and then Magnus starts expansion on the king side, f5 and king f6 and g5 potential.
Magnus in total flow at the moment.
But have you seen how it changed? Like queens are off, and all of a sudden you have different Magnus on the board, like almost like he memorized literally all the endgame positions.
But this last move by Hans seemed to just ask to be punched by playing the move king to d3.
Wow, that was a bit too much.
That was not necessary, and his time is now under a minute. Magnus has managed to get 7 seconds on the clock when he was in some trouble, and it's now Hans who has to defend, and Magnus sees that the flow is here. He also sees the initiative, and a capture on d4 and no trades just yet.
Knight g5 heading to e4 and targeting h3, and the d file, there's still a pin.
How do you defend everything?
There's no way. Sorry, but there is no way. Like, you have to drop something.
Oh, which one do you choose? And now his time is coming down, and Magnus is ahead on the clock. What a comeback by Carlsen in this position. Incredible. And now his endgame skills just showcasing how powerful he is. And instead of taking the pawn, Magnus has opted for knight to e4 check. Seems like he could have taken on h3.
Yeah,
f4
but he finds the other way, check, and after king e2, knight a4, he says, you know what, I prefer this one.
The b pawn now hanging because the knight has to drop back.
Knight f3.
And a check in the position, and there goes one pawn. And now knight to b4, and Hans is fighting for his life with only 6 seconds left against 18. And now a very important check as the knight now dances back. He's played king to c2, and Magnus in full control with 19 seconds against only 4.
Wow.
A definite winning position for black here. Knight to e6, and white just scrambling, trying to stay alive. 4 seconds left.
Yeah, will Magnus trade the knight? I mean, well, some people would, but also now that the time is on his side, yeah, you probably want to keep more pieces on the board.
Okay, he's under 10 seconds now, though. He's got to pay attention.
Yeah, it's not like a big time advantage. Knight f4 hitting h3, rook to e1.
Now bishop to e5, and how do you defend the h-pawn? Well, he's preparing rook h1, actually.
Rook h1 and capture Magnus's pawns. Well, the knights are known to be tricky pieces, though, right? If somehow Hans can get those knights around Magnus's king, there still can be some tricks.
Yes, and there's some knight d7
Knight
tricks.
d7
in the position Magnus has only 3 seconds left, and he has allowed king this f7. Repetition. Takes.
King f6. Oh, well, but he tricked Hans, and now, after this check, he can take on f5. So kind of regaining control.
3 seconds, 2 seconds for Hans, and he has 2 passed pawns, and they're just whipping off moves right now.
Bishop f6.
Back. And somehow you don't think anybody's going to lose on time. Those knights are tricky. You got to pay attention. Anything could happen.
There's a lot of jumping around. There's a lot of jumping.
How are they keeping track?
Check. Wow.
And now a trade.
A trade, so one knight off the board. There still should be a winning for Magnus. This one with 2 connected pass pawns. Rook to c5. Yeah.
Astonishing wizardry by these players. But now the a-pawn is looking to make some noise, but the rook is sitting behind it, making it very difficult to advance anywhere.
Yeah, white's king is cut off, and, you know, the a-pawn is running, but so does the h-pawn, and the knights are notoriously bad at
At 1 second
stopping.
there, and
Wow.
tricks are for
Rook
kids.
takes b4 and king to g3, and Magnus knows how to win it.
Yes.
Out of all players in the world, Magnus does know how to win it. Still have to be a little... No, there's nothing. There's
No, those pawns are
absolutely
gonna move
nothing.
by themselves.
Rook
There's
to
usually
a5,
2
and then you
seconds
move
left.
forward.
And
you move
desperation
forward.
times, but that is it. Magnus Carlsen
Have you seen this one?
showing that he's the boss. Indeed, managing to pull that one off. Hans Niemann gave him an absolute scare, but he has moved on to the semifinals. And that gesture really said it all. He really wanted to win that one.